right?
No, I'm not sure who I should worry about.
The government. Because he does it every single time.
Claire, after any of the ends are switching identity.
So, no Daredevil this week after all. And believe it or not, I'm not angry about that. Far from it. In fact, I don't really feel angry about this episode in general. And not just because I lost my voice yelling at the last one. That may change as I go through this, though. Instead, I'm feeling a couple different things. The first is relief. I am relieved that Daredevil did not appear this week. I am glad that Daredevil was not associated with whatever the this was supposed to be. Because if he had been in this episode, it would not have meant anything good for him. The second thing I'm feeling is embarrassment for the actors. Jamila Jamil specifically. They've done her so dirty it's ridiculous. But really, none of the actors are getting treated well. The writing's so bad, even Tatiana Maslany is in give no fucks mode now. I mean, look at her in this episode. She's just goofing off to amuse herself. And frankly, who the hell could blame her at this point? The writers obviously couldn't care less about what they're doing. They're just using the show to air out their personal gripes with everything in their own lives that pisses them off, which turns out to be quite a lot of stuff. Problem is, very little of that is A, funny, or B, has anything to do with what the show is supposed to be about. And this episode was no exception, because why would we want to adapt the comics or any of the stories the fans like when we can do silly wedding shenanigans? And I could keep belaboring the point here, but I really don't want to this time. This episode was tied for the shortest of the season, and absolutely nothing of note happened here until the last 30 seconds. Which means, with just 3 episodes left in the season, these jackasses just delivered 30 minutes and 30 seconds of filler. Oh, but any criticism of the show is just because of sexist man babies, right? Yeah. So the episode begins with Jen getting a wedding invitation for a wedding later that day or later in the week or something. People normally get a little more notice with these things so they can plan ahead, but no, not this time. Jen's packing for the trip, and diverse female BFF wants to see the amazing new outfit that episode 5 spent its entire runtime building up only to not show us, and they don't show us the supersuit this week either because Jen thinks it's stupid and is never going to wear it because the writers of this comic book show have apparently never read a goddamn comic book. Beats me what the holdup is. It's just a fucking suit. Now, women might care about that more than I do, but women are supposedly the target audience for this shit show, so why do you keep teasing them like this? The wedding's on a Thursday, because that's not incredibly inconvenient for your guests or anything, and Jen feels bad that Book will have to pick up her slack at work, but diverse female BFF doesn't mind that because it means she gets to work more closely with Book, which I guess is confirmation that diverse female BFF is a lesbian, not that we couldn't have guessed. Then Jen looks right into the camera and spells everything out for us. That's right, it's a self-contained wedding episode, and you might think this is happening at an inconvenient time in the season, but TS, we're doing it anyway. What? What, you didn't think something else was gonna happen this week, did you? That someone else might show up instead? Is that what you thought? Is that what you tuned in to see? Well, f*** you stupid idiots! We just trolled your asses! But you're still gonna watch the episode, right? Right? I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's basically the gist of it. They baited us in with the tease of Daredevil and then laughed in our faces when we fell for it. Because the point was to trick people into tuning in and then dangle the carrot in front of them for as long as possible, knowing fans will tune in if they think Daredevil might appear until he finally does. Because playing fucking petty, childish games with the fans is easier than writing a good show. So I would not expect Daredevil to show up next week either. Maybe he'll be in episode 8 and then they'll team up for the finale or something, but Jesus Christ, could the writers have been any more infantile about this? It's one thing to tease us, but to tease us only to then deliver the worst thing you've done by far and then laugh at the fans for getting pissed off about it? Because you know that's what they're doing right now. That's the kind of shit that's gonna come back to haunt you. And sorry to rain on your parade, She-Hulk writers, but I'm not pissed off. I did, however, stick around to watch the episode, which you're going to be pissed off about in just a few minutes. So She-Hulk shows up at the wedding wedding, actually dressed like a female for a change, so that's nice. And of course, all the attention is drawn to her, because how could it not be? She's a friggin' Hulk. All the women in the bridal party are kissing her ass, telling her how awesome she is, how great she looks, and the bride, Jen's old friend Lulu from high school, has to take her aside to talk about this. Lulu doesn't want Jen to be She-Hulk at the wedding because then everyone will be looking at She-Hulk instead of the wedding. Jen thinks no one will be looking at her, but who the hell is she kidding? And Lulu makes her promise that she'll only attend the wedding as Jen, not She-Hulk. And I guess we're supposed to dislike Lulu for this, but I'm not getting that at all. I'm with Lulu, actually. It's her wedding day. She's the bride. She's supposed to be the center of attention, and here you show up green and 7 feet tall, ensuring that all eyes are gonna be on you instead? How narcissistic do you have to be to do something like that? We don't even know why Jen did this. We didn't get any indication that she wanted to show off to the girls who teased her when they were teenagers or something. This is supposed to be her friend getting married, and Jen just showed up like this, taking all the attention for herself. Why are we supposed to be on Jen's side here? Back at the law firm, we head into uncharted territory, because holy moly, Book and diverse female BFF are getting their own subplot. A non-Jen Walters related subplot too, if you can believe that. And sure, it's gonna be really stupid, as we'll soon see, but it's more than what they had before, so let's check this thing out. It's a divorce case featuring our cameo of the week on this totally not cameo-dependent show, Craig Hollis, Mr. Immortal from the Great Lakes Avengers. That's who we get instead of Daredevil. And it might only be by happenstance, but I'm okay with this. At least Mr. Immortal is kind of a joke in the comics, so him being here frankly makes more sense than Daredevil, and if he's getting shit dumped on him so Matt Murdock doesn't have to, yeah, that's fine by me. And sure enough, that's the only reason Mr. Immortal is there. He's not a superhero, he's not even a good person. He's an asshole whose power is that he keeps coming back to life when he dies, so every time he gets tired of his marriage, rather than simply having a conversation with his wife or husband, because of course, he just kills himself to get out of it. So now he has a bunch of angry ex-wives and an ex-husband who are trying to justifiably bleed him dry. And thus we realize the one and only reason why Mr. Immortal is even there. It's not to be a hero, it's not to tell a story, it's just so the writers can shit on him for being male. Because so outraged by this case are Book and diverse female BFF that they instantly start berating him nonstop for what an awful person he is. However, this does set up the one gag in the episode, and frankly the series, that I kind of liked, because so obnoxious is their bitching at him that he gets right up and throws himself out the window to get away from them. I will admit, I've been very critical of the comedy on this show, because, let's be honest, there hasn't been any, but as jokes go, that one was decent. That one has solid meme potential. And I like this because throwing myself out a window is what this episode made me want to do for 30 minutes straight. But the sad part, because there's always a sad part on She-Hulk it turns out, is that this could have set up a bunch more gags where he keeps killing himself every time the divorce negotiations go bad. Like his exes start ranting about him and it's so intolerable that he sticks his finger in an electric socket or dives down an elevator shaft or something. I mean, at the very least, you could have gotten a really entertaining montage out of this gag, but this was literally the only time they do it. For the rest of this plot, they're just sitting in a room talking about boring, annoying shit. Yeah, that fucking figures. The writers finally Forrest Gump their way into a joke that actually works, and they don't even take advantage of it. How the hell did these idiots even get hired? Back at the wedding, Lulu asks Jen how things have been with her since they haven't gotten caught up in a while, and Jen starts telling Lulu about her life. She's got a great new job, she has superpowers now, which is pretty crazy, but Lulu really just wants to know if Jen's dating anyone. Because the She-Hulk thing, that's not interesting at all, right? Yeah, the writers really have their fingers on the pulse of this audience. I guess those assholes from the dating app don't count, so she isn't dating anyone, but Lulu tells her, it's alright, it's okay, you still have some time to find someone, so don't feel bad. Jen says she doesn't feel bad, even though that's clearly a lie, and I don't know what we're supposed to get from the character here. Jen obviously wants to find someone, wants to be in a relationship with someone, but the writers have a really toxic and unhealthy view of men and dating in general because all the men she meets are horrible and all her dates go terribly. So what's the endgame here? Because I don't think the writers are gonna change. Not enough to let Jen have a good relationship with a good guy at any rate. So unless Kevin Feige's just planning on hitting the retcon button with this show and having She-Hulk jump into the sack with Thor in the next Avengers movie or something, then I'm not sure what the purpose of any of this is. But then Lulu gets sucked into a conversation with other people about whether they're Team Edward or Team Jacob, because that debate is fucking relevant as hell in 2022. And then Titania shows up, wearing her Sunday finest from the Peggy Bundy wedding collection. Ow! I'm out of bonbons! She got herself invited by dating a friend of the groom. Not sure which of them is getting the bad end of that one. Jen thinks Titania just showed up to ruin her friend's wedding and mess with her, but Lulu thinks that's insane because Titania wouldn't come to her wedding just to try to kill Jen. Don't be ridiculous. Not everything is about you, Jen. I mean, it's not like Titania literally tried to kill you before or spent the last 2 episodes deliberately messing with you or anything. Why is every character on this show a fucking idiot? Why did you take characters from the comics that people like and turn them into this? Why are you still dressing up Jamila Jamil like a clown? I could end the video right here. You all know what's gonna happen. But there was one little part of this thing that wasn't filler, and unfortunately for me, it's the last 30 seconds. So I have to keep going. Jen goes outside to stew about this, and that's where she's approached by a man, who, at first glance, does not appear to be an asshole. Very suspicious. I'm watching you, Joshua. They chit-chat for a minute. He seems to be a good guy, who's not white, so that's an added bonus. Am I right, people? They start to hit it off, but then Lulu runs out with a crisis on her hands. Half the event staff up and quit, so she really needs Jen to pitch in and clean up around here. Doesn't seem like that big of a job since there's only like 2 or 3 dozen people at this wedding tops, but she also needs Josh inside right when Jen was starting to believe in love again, and that's the real thing to get angry about, damn it. Back at the law firm, they've rounded up all of Mr. Immortal's ex-spouses, and every story is different, but they're all pretty much the same. He's a terrible person and an awful husband who killed himself to get away from them because all men suck, rinse, repeat. And they discovered what he was doing when one of them found a video on a site called Intelligencia. Intelligent is hardly a word I would use to describe any of this, but whatever. That showed him doing his thing, so the jig was up at that point. And also, he married each of them under a different fake identity, so that makes this even messier. So Book is gonna get him the best deal she can with this, but it's gonna cost him, which Book gets a kick out of because it means Book gets to punish this despicable bastard, and that part's gonna be fun for her. Shocking. Back to the wedding, where Jen has now been put on laundry duty, and since she has no +1 and the groomsmen bridesmaid numbers don't match up, during the ceremony, she'll be walking down the aisle with Jonathan, who is a dog. Okay. I'd be annoyed about the laundry thing, but Jonathan? Who cares? Jen is embarrassed about this, of course, but I don't know why. So she has to walk down the aisle with a dog. So what? Is that supposed to be a joke? I don't know how many weddings the writers have been to, but I've been to a lot of them. I used to video weddings, actually. Not anymore, thank God, but I've seen a ton of these things, believe me. And it's not uncommon for the bride and groom to have their pets in the ceremony. Like, that happens more than you'd think. And no one ever acts weird about it. Why would they? It's a cute little dog. People love dogs. If it was a little terror who was, like, shitting all over the place and trying to eat Jen's shoes or something, that might be different, but he's just sitting there like a good boy. Seriously, what is the issue? Why is she embarrassed? Because she doesn't have a date? Why does she even care about not having a date when the show treats men like fucking garbage? If she did bring a date, they'd probably just spend the whole episode telling us how horrible he is, like they do with every other male character who appears in this piece of shit. Case in point, we go back to Mr. Immortal now, and he makes an offer to all his angry exes. He has some gold stored away that he inherited from a previous relationship, and also he has a bunch of shares of Apple stock that he bought back in 1981. So he proposes that they divide all those evenly and call it a day. And those shares should be worth a goddamn fortune at this point, so yeah, I'd take that fucking deal if I were them. That sounds great. But they're still not happy because why divide it evenly when I was with him for 20 years and she was only with him for 3? I should get more. Well, I had a kid with him, so I should get more than you. Blah, blah, blah. It just goes on like that. And this would have been the perfect time to break the tension by having Mr. Immortal choke himself with his own tongue or something to escape this. But why would we want to do something funny like that? I mean, we can't have any comedy happen here. What kind of show do you think this is? So instead, Book just forces Mr. Immortal to sit his ass down, they don't make any jokes, and then we cut to later where Diver's female BFF has just magically fixed the whole thing, because we don't need conflict or anything remotely interesting to happen either. So the TLDR version is that all the women got what they wanted, Mr. Immortal got taken to the cleaners, the end. And somehow this is a win for the firm representing Mr. Immortal, because you, we say so, that's why. Wouldn't the case have become a conflict of interest at this point since they were basically rooting for their client to lose? Not that conflict of interest actually means anything on this show, I'm just curious. So Book basks in Diver's female BFF's glory, tells her how awesome she is, and Diver's female BFF just soaks that up because her gaydar is suddenly going wild and she's starting to get exciting ideas about what might be in store for her tonight. And then we're back at the wedding where Jen is lamenting about having to pay for drinks and dancing like a total dork. This we get a montage of, but the stuff about the dude with the kooky superpowers that might have been funny or entertaining, that we don't care about. Of course. She tries calling Bruce, but he hasn't been answering his phone for weeks. You know, because he's on the other side of the galaxy doing stuff we'd much rather be watching right now than whatever's about to happen here. Josh talks to her again, and Jen's in her human form right now, so she's a little bit tipsy at this point, but she confides in him that she just wanted to show up at this wedding and show that she's doing really good. And sure, she doesn't have a husband or a boyfriend, wink, but she's got a great job, and everyone thinks She-Hulk is super awesome when the plot demands it, except when they don't, also when the plot demands it. So she just wanted to be super awesome today at someone else's wedding. Not selfish at all. But in a way, maybe she did do that because Josh seems to think she's pretty great. And as we learned about Jen in a previous episode, paying her one compliment is pretty much all it takes to get into her pants. So they're having a moment here, and Jen looks just about ready to take Josh to the nearest coat closet, but, and there's a not so subtle message hidden in here, then she has to run outside and vomit, because that was the lowest hanging fruit imaginable that the writers could reach for without, you know, standing up, or doing any work whatsoever. So Jen vomits into some flowers, then they cut to an over-the-shoulder shot, and there's no vomit. Fire the f***ing editor. Then Titania shows up and punches Jen in the face so hard she goes flying like 20 feet. Given that Titania has super strength and Jen is in her human form right now, that should have taken her head clean off. But don't worry everybody, Jen's not even bruised. Gets up like she didn't even feel it. Because what self-respecting superhero needs stakes or drama or genuine threats, right? And now Titania finally reveals the real reason why she showed up at the wedding. To mess with Jen. Shocker! She pushes Jen around trying to get her to transform because it's no fun if she doesn't transform into She-Hulk, even though the last time Titania fought She-Hulk she got her ass whooped in 9 seconds, so I'm not sure what her plan is here. Of course at this point I was still assuming she had one. Won't make that mistake again. So it's about to go down. The thing is though, Jen's drunk, so she's having trouble transforming. But then she tries again, and she transforms. It didn't take any extra motivation. Titania didn't have to hurt her or threaten her friends or family to give Jen an adrenaline rush or piss her off or anything. Jen just tried to transform a second time, in which nothing had changed from the first time a few seconds earlier, and this time it worked. And if you thought that was fucking lame, wait till you see this fight. Beats me what the point of it is. You just showed us that Titania can't even hurt Jen when she's in her non-powered human form, so what the hell is she gonna do against a Hulk? I don't know, but you'd think Titania would have learned something from their first fight where She-Hulk destroyed her without even trying, that she would have come in with some kind of plan or weapon or idea for how to counter She-Hulk's vastly superior power level. but she doesn't. She didn't develop, she didn't learn anything. She fights She-Hulk with all things being exactly as they were the first time, and wouldn't you know it, the fight ends the exact same way. And hey, I'll give her this much, the fight goes about 21 seconds longer than the first one did, so that's a solid half minute there, kudos, but a big chunk of that is just Titania mugging for the camera, and the outcome was never in doubt for a moment. The fight itself is fucking pathetic, hardly anything even happens, they throw a couple punches, Titania gets knocked on her ass, and that's it. Fight over. That's all there is. Are you kidding me? For this, you needed a budget of $25 million an episode? Where the hell did all the money go? Not to the CG or the set pieces, that's for damn sure, but you had no action at all in episode 5, so you really couldn't have saved a few pennies for something extra in this one? Jen wouldn't have even needed to transform. All the fight was a few seconds of this. Why did you even waste our time with this shit? Then Titania gets up, charges at She-Hulk, slips on some ice cubes, falls on her face like she's in a goddamn SNL sketch, and breaks her veneers somehow. She just got punched in the mouth by a fucking Hulk and looked fine afterward, didn't even smear her makeup, but face planting on the floor is what did the damage. Kiss my ass. So the fight could not have been more one-sided. Titania's utterly humiliated again. Her teeth are all f***ed up. All the guests are Instagramming this, so she grabs the wedding cake and nopes out. Presumably so Jamila Jamil can find a phone and fire her agent. Then Lulu comes in, and she's not upset that the party's ruined, that the venue's trashed, or her wedding cake is gone, all because Jen did the one thing she made Jen promise not to do. Instead, she's like, oh my god, She-Hulk is at my wedding! Best day ever! What? Are you not the same character who just a few scenes ago said you didn't want She-Hulk at your wedding because you were afraid she might do exactly the thing she just did? Then she does that thing, takes all the attention away from you on your wedding day, and suddenly you're happy about it? Like, what the f*** is going on here? Did nobody proofread the script before they shot it? Was the writer drunk when they wrote the first half and high when they wrote the second half? How does this happen? The character just does a complete 180 for no reason and you don't even explain it? What the shit am I even watching? I have no idea, but I'll tell you this. It's getting a little uncomfortable. I don't know whose coffee Jamila Jamil pissed in, but the treatment of her character is starting to feel borderline mean-spirited. I feel sorry for her. Her and her character. She shows up, gets embarrassed by She-Hulk, comes back later, loses a case to She-Hulk when she didn't even do anything wrong, goes after She-Hulk again, gets embarrassed again. She didn't learn anything from the first fight. She just did the exact same thing, thinking it might somehow turn out differently this time, and then to the surprise of nobody, it doesn't. So she looks like a complete fool, who incidentally also dresses like one, and there doesn't seem to be any other point to her being there. She's no threat to She-Hulk, obviously, or even a threat to Jen as it turns out, so before the fight even started we didn't care about it, but they keep throwing her at She-Hulk with nothing changing about the situation, and the same thing keeps happening. Titania gets embarrassed again and again and again. I don't understand this. Why does the MCU show run by women, the MCU show that claims to be seen through a female lens, treat its female characters worse than any of them? This is pissing me off and I'm a dude. Can't we get this actress and this character a little bit of respect here, please? At least tell a freaking story with it, but you couldn't even do that much. You just turned Titania into Wile E. Coyote without the imagination. But as a character, she's even more static than he is. Why is she not allowed to learn anything? Why isn't she changing her tactics? Why did she think the second fight would be any different than their first fight when she didn't do anything different? Because, I'm assuming, the point was never to make Titania a good character, a person with a minimum 2 brain cells to rub together, or a legitimate rival for She-Hulk to struggle against. The point was just to embarrass her, because heaven forbid the villain or the actress have even a shred of dignity, right? Well, mission accomplished, dipshits. It doesn't make for good TV, and if I'm Jamila Jamil, I'm feeling pretty humiliated right now, but you did it. To what end? God only knows. Back at the law firm, stop me if you've heard this one, Book and diverse female BFF are dishing about what a horrible person Mr. Immortal is. Yeah, men are awful, men are terrible, men are the worst thing ever. We get it. Change the f***ing record already. We find out that Book actually has a husband and a family, so she's not DTS after all, and this means diverse female BFF is out of luck, not that she seems bothered by that. Then they peruse that Intelligencia site and find something very disturbing, something horrible, something that could turn this entire series upside down right before the big finale. Internet trolls posting mean comments about She-Hulk! I'm not even being sarcastic. This is the big twist. This is their big gotcha moment. A toxic comment section. It is laughable how they play this, with the sinister music trying to make us all afraid of the online shit-talking by the hateful man-babies. And yes, that is what they call them. What are we doing here? Is this your first day on the fucking internet? You think nobody's ever gotten death threats on a message board before? You think you're special because of this? I've gotten death threats because I had the audacity to not like a TV show somebody else liked. And you know what happened after that? Nothing! Because people like to talk shit on the internet. How do you not know this? Holy crap. And you think this is bad? For your sake, I hope you never log on to Twitter and say the wrong thing about Brie Larson. A couple minutes of that and you'd never leave your house again. Because apparently, mean comments are worse than fucking Thanos all of a sudden. I honestly thought this was another pathetic attempt at humor for a minute. And ironically, the writers trying to play this shit seriously was funnier than any of the actual jokes in the show up to this point. So diverse female BFF calls Jen to give her a heads up because the indestructible Hulk, one of the most powerful people on the face of the earth, needs to be warned about the prepubescent 12-year-olds using their parents' Wi-Fi to post unflattering memes about her on fucking Reddit. Jesus Christ. But Jen doesn't get the call because she's busy enjoying a plate of fries with Josh. And at the rate this show is going, he'll probably be the big bad behind the stealing She-Hulk's blood plot. I thought it was going to be Titania, and I still think she'll be involved somehow, but the writers don't seem to want to give her any respect at all. And from what we've seen so far, I don't think Titania would be capable of masterminding something like that. I don't think she's that bright. But hey, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying what's on the screen. Meanwhile, we've got Josh, who seems like a perfectly nice dude. And on a show where the writers seem to think men are the scum of the earth, who are written as either idiots, assholes, or both, that's suspicious as hell. So maybe he's the big bad, or maybe he's the wrecking crew dude in the mask, but one way or another, if he's exactly the good guy he appears to be, I will be surprised to say the least. And the episode ends with some guys in a lab monitoring Jen. A commenter named Hulk King wants to know if the next phase of the plan is ready. We see some dude with the syringe that had the needle that couldn't get through She-Hulk's skin before, and he prepares a syringe with a slightly bigger needle. Unless it's made of fucking adamantium, I don't think that one's gonna work either. But here's an idea so crazy it just might work. Why not try to get Jen's blood while she's in human form? That way a normal needle might just do the trick. So is every villain on this show just a complete and utter doofus? Titania keeps trying the same thing over and over and keeps failing over and over. Then there's these idiots who are like, well, the first needle didn't work, so let's try a different needle. We're 2/3 of the way through the season, got 3 episodes left, and that's the best you can come up with? Oh, but there's also the message board trolls posting their mean comments on the internet. Let's not forget that. Now that's a terrifying villain for you. Step aside, Thanos. Move over, Wilson Fisk. There's a new kid in town. Because I don't know how She-Hulk could possibly survive the unstoppable onslaught of memes. Wow. This was truly pathetic. Not only was this probably the most half-assed episode of any of the Marvel Disney Plus shows, in terms of sheer embarrassment, this might have been the worst thing the MCU has done. I don't know how Jessica Gao conned Kevin Feige into letting her produce this, but I would be embarrassed to have my name attached to this if I was him. This was a new low. The writing is awful, the male characters get shit on every week, and even the female characters are being treated terribly because everything has some kind of agenda behind it. Poor Jamila Jamil, I feel bad for her. She seems like a good actress, and she's been charming and funny in interviews, but this has gotta be the most undignified role I've seen in the MCU. They've made her into a friggin' buffoon. There's barely any story. Everything in the episode until the last 30 seconds was fucking filler, and the stuff that wasn't, who gives a shit? It's a stupid comment section and a bunch of anonymous lab guys getting ready to try something that didn't even work the first fucking time they did it. Why should we care about any of this? The humor is garbage. In 6 episodes, they've had 1, maybe 2 jokes that have landed. Even the production values don't look that good anymore. The set pieces are weirdly small scale. The action scenes, for the tiny handful of seconds they actually last, are completely phoned in. Jen has not even once been in any sort of trouble, and I usually end up rooting for the bad guys because they're the ones who are actually the underdogs in these things. She-Hulk has no struggle to overcome in a fight scene. She is the fucking struggle for everybody else. So why should anyone root for her to succeed? Because she can't find a boyfriend? Why would she want to? Every man on the show is an idiot or a total asshole. Nothing about this is working right now. The writers are no talent hacks who are just projecting their own lives and their own hang-ups and their own politics onto everything in the show. They could have just adapted the comics and had something good, but hell, I'd bet money they haven't even read the comics. There's still all this shit popping up every week, and with 6 episodes down, 3 more to go, it's only getting worse. Daredevil ain't gonna save this shit. The most he can hope for is to just get out with his dignity intact. It'll be a tall order, but hey, if he pulls it off, it'll make him a lot luckier than Jamila Jamil was. God help him. He's gonna need it. I guess I was pretty pissed off after all, wasn't I? Oh god, that's not changing anytime soon, is it? Thanks for watching, and while you're here, please do all the other YouTube things. Ding the bell icon and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. I also have a live streaming channel. Links to everything are in the description box. And most importantly, thumbs up the video, leave a comment. It really helps out with the algorithm. Share the video around, subscribe, make sure you're still subscribed, and I'll be back with more soon. Take care, stay tuned. I'll see you next time.